Hey everyone, this is WP Product Talk, the place where every week we interview an experienced WordPress product owner on strategies and tips, experiences, failures, successes of running successful and thriving WordPress product businesses. I am Matt Cromwell, co-founder of GiftWP and Senior Director of Customer Experience at Stellar WP.
And I'm Amber Hinds, CEO of Equalize Digital, a company that focuses on WordPress accessibility.
And today is the first time we have Amber here as our co-host. Thanks so much for being here, Amber.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
If you haven't heard, we're mixing things up. We got 4 co-hosts now, 4 people pouring their blood, sweat, and tears into this show. So
Hopefully not too many tears. Happy tears.
hopefully not too many. I don't know. That's what people show up for, like let's give a little bit more emotion going. I'm just kidding.
We need to be crying about our WordPress products.
Exactly.
Do sometimes.
Katie Keith is continuing with us, of course, from Barn 2, and Zach Katz as well, as you saw in the new fancy intro, Canva-powered intro. So cool. And today's topic, what we're all here for today is, should you SaaSify your WordPress product? We're going to talk about a little bit the parameters around what that means and whatnot, lots of ways that SaaS is used. But there's some new opportunities in the WordPress space that are interesting. So
yeah, I think this is going to be a really great show if you've been either thinking about turning your WordPress product into a SaaS, maybe for greater revenue opportunities, or if you want to expand beyond WordPress websites. So it should be exciting.
Yeah. And joining us today to talk about this is Bowe Frankema from Dollie. Bowe.
Hello, Amber. Hey, Matt. How are you both doing? Happy to be here.
Yeah. Nice. Bowe, tell us a little bit about what you do at Dollie and what you do in general.
Sure. Yeah, so I've been in the WordPress community for, I think, 15 years now. Started off just doing the small mom and pop website for an aunt, and then got really into the community. Like started talking about building communities with BuddyPress and social networking stuff. Then that transformed into agency work. And then around 6 years ago, I had the spark, like, why is it so hard to build your own SaaS platform? Because we wanted to do hosting for BuddyPress communities or to help people build communities, and got very passionate about that and realized maybe there's an opportunity here to make that easier so that someone who has an agency or a product can actually build a branded platform on top of WordPress, basically knowing how to work with it, working with it every day. And that became the foundation of Dollie. And it's been a 5-year journey. We've learned a lot, we've seen a lot, and especially now in the last year, we really see that there's a movement in the WordPress product building community to really look into like, hey, how can we take that step from selling a product to building a platform with our products installed or ready to go for our customers. So I'm happy to discuss that further.
Awesome. Good to hear. I'm excited to talk about it. So, folks, if you are here watching us on YouTube, use the chat on the side. We would love to highlight your question or comment and answer it as much as we can. Or I don't know, maybe we'll make fun of it. I'm not sure. See what happens. But we'll highlight it. And if you're on Twitter, then use the hashtag WP Product Talk, and we'll be paying attention over there as well. So first things first, we want to chat about why this subject is so important. And I'll kick it off a little bit. For me, I've been wanting to talk about this subject a little bit more. A few weeks back, we chatted with Aaron Edwards, who was a big advocate for building SaaS, micro SaaSes for WordPress in particular. And he really feels that there's a lot of benefits to that approach. This is a different subject, related, but different in the sense that you can take a traditional WordPress plugin product and sell it essentially in a hosted environment, the way that you want it to, the best way that you want your product to be experienced in a hosted environment. I think it's particularly important because it's a new and evolving way to increase your sales. It's not for everybody. It's not for every single product, but for the right products, it really could make a significant difference. So anytime there's a new avenue or a new marketplace, essentially, for products, I think folks should be interested in that. But more to the point, I think it is one way, like, what's the best way to say it? often when you install a WordPress product, the customer or the user is getting the absolute worst experience that they could with your product. Um, and this is a way that you could help them have the best experience with your product.
Yeah,
And
because you can control
exactly.
how it's onboarded and
Yeah.
everything about it, right?
You never know what they're going to be plugging your plugin into, in their environment. And it's like, good luck in that cowboy area. But with this, you have the potential to like cater the experience to what you want them to have. So that's my take. Bo, I'd love to hear your take, of course.
Yeah, for me, what I really feel is a big game changer in the web industries, and especially in WordPress in the last couple of years, is that you've seen that the big hosts, like at CloudFest, Matt, we saw all the big names. We're talking about like the GoDaddies of this WordPress economy that we're talking about. They are all putting so much effort into making the initial experience easier so that people can get actually a space type of experience on, for example, GoDaddy or any other host. And I think as a product creator, you also have the tools available these days to have a platform that does that, but even on a more personal and often on a niche level, right? So you have, for example, like our friend Derek, who has like a photo card solution where you have albums and you basically upload pictures and then your customers install the plugin and they have to take it in a certain direction. That often then stumbles into like, oh, I don't have enough hosting space, or my host doesn't support this. So why not take that opportunity and look at your product and say, hey, this is the absolute perfect starting point for any of our customers that have already been part of our community there. They trust us. They like our branding. We have a relationship. They come to us for support. Now, I think the last couple of years, we see that hosting, no offense to the big guys, it's not that complicated anymore. You can have high performance, secure, very easy to manage hosting. And there's companies like Dollie, but also WPCS, WPM Dev, they're really jumping into this market. Like, hey, let's actually talk to these creators and say, hey, you can actually start building your platform. And as you said, Matt, it can be scary, can also be daunting. There's probably also products or plugins that do not fit that SaaS model. But I think there's plenty of them that do, especially if you think about your product in a slightly different kind of angle and look, okay, what's going to be the next 5 years for our product? Is it going to be one-off sales and support? Or is it going to be a customer community with products and starting points and turnkey solutions that ensure not only the happiness of our customers, but also of our team? And I think that is the big change that we've seen in the last year or so, where that has become a serious conversation in our community.
Yeah, I think for me, that's really why this is important for WP product owners. So I posted, maybe we can link to it in the show notes after the fact. But I was, as I was thinking about this, I was calling back to this post that Pippin wrote when he sold his plugins to Awesome Motive. And he talked about what I thought was really great, which is that there's basically 3 ways that you end your business at some point in time, right? Like, we all don't do it forever. So either we're going to give it to someone else, like our family member or something like that. It's just going to decline and we're going to shut it down, or we're going to sell it. And I really think like this post, it was interesting because he talked a lot about like how he thought about the end game for his business and what that would look like. And when I think about, my business or any like product owners, and you're thinking about what is your end game, what does that look like? You have to figure out how to get there. And I think going from whether it's just, free product to then monetized plugin to building out something, if you want to ultimately sell it, which is, I think, the most ideal exit for a product owner. Obviously, just it declines and you shut it down. That's not great. Passing it to a family member might make sense, but how many of our children really want to operate our business and follow in that path? Like, I don't know, probably not, right? So if we want to sell it, like, I think going a SaaS direction is something that gives you a much more sellable product or company in the end. And I think there's a lot too, like, even if you're not thinking about that total end game, but just like what you want your day to day to be like how many people do you want on your team? How are you going to support those salaries? Are you worried about competitors having access to everything your product offers? So the benefit of having a hosted solution is there are some parts of it that maybe aren't on GitHub, right? That aren't open source, that everyone can just download and install. And so it gives you more of a competitive edge in that way. And I think if you ask yourself those kinds of questions, then it can help you to know if building your company or your product as a SaaS is the right direction to go.
That's a really good point. I mean, even in conversations that we had originally, when we were being approached about selling our company, anyone who was not particularly well versed in the WordPress space, they would ask us, well, how many customers do you have? Well, we could talk about customers, but like our big numbers are in our free users. They're like, oh, well, how do you interact with your free users? We're like, we hope that they reach out to us. Like, you know, but in a hosted environment, you own the customer to some extent, you know, and it does have a very different valuation when you can say, I have the ability to know all of my customers and to interact with them at some level or another, depending on their
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that dives a little bit into story time, but that was literally what I was going to talk about. And I don't know if we want to transition there yet, but I feel like there was a lot on, you know, just when we haven't sold our product yet, but we have gone and pursued some investors, and having those conversations, like the same things you were saying, is one of the first things was, how many users do you have? And until WordPress.org got rid of the install growth data, we could more easily maybe say what we thought that number was. And now I'm like 2,000 plus, somewhere between, right? Like, we can't do that. So that becomes a challenge when you aren't hosting or making everyone go through you. And I think, like, we definitely, from the VC and being able to fundraise, like, not having those numbers. And I know we've tried to use different things. Like, for a while, we were able to get some stuff out of wpmetrics.dev. Now we're paying for freemiums, not to sell our product, but just to allow people to opt in so we can try and get some metrics. But I think based on what we could see back when we had install count, maybe only 40% of people actually opt in with that. So I think it is really challenging in my experience when you don't have those metrics, and it can limit your growth ability in a way that if you have a SaaS. I don't know, Bo, if you've had those experiences when you.
Well, I think what we've seen is exactly those concerns, right? Like you are either on a marketplace and you have no control. That's you have people that have sold 10, 20, 30,000 products and they have no control over the renewal process, over insights, whatever. Then you have more established brands or people that sell through their own shops, but they're still delivering those products to sites that are either private or they don't have the metrics. And that's just one of the pieces of the puzzle that you're constantly giving away as a product or a business owner, right? Revenue, you have affiliate deals with hosting companies or partnerships with other product creators. Support, like every single person that needs support you need to get a login link, you need to get SFTP details, yada, yada, yada. All those things start to add up. And 5 years ago, that was like part of the course. You get used to it. That's the way of how you should run your business. There's no alternatives. And now I think all of these things, like taking back control over your branding, your product, your revenue, and delivering that turnkey solution, right? That's the end goal, is that the customer is happier. And what you're describing is more like internal processes, right? Like, how do we keep our business? How do we get the insights and the customer satisfaction rates that we're striving for? And all of those factors make it so much more complicated. And once you get into the SaaS story, for example, with Dollie, we have all those tools, right? You have one centralized dashboard where you can log into every site with one click. You have team management tools, and that's not to pitch Dollie. It's more to give you an example of these solutions that allow you to build a platform on top of WordPress. The way I kind of pitch to our customers is like, imagine the first version of Elementor, right? Where you build a page on the front end and you're like, oh, this is actually kind of, this is cool. And then you try Beaver Builder and you have a whole massive ecosystem now of fantastic page builders. I think something like a platform builder on top of WordPress is one of those ideas where now we're talking about hypotheticals like, should you do this? And I think in a year or 5, that has just become another part of your business. And that's what I hope. That's what I believe in. And I also honestly think it benefits everyone. It also benefits hosting companies because they are actively pursuing to get there, because they have customers that drop off. They don't renew their hosting plans because they launch a WordPress site. And I think Ben from Rocket.net said, and I think Joost as well, he was like, now what? There's nothing. There's no onboarding. There's no turnkey solution. And they go to Squarespace or Wix, and they're like, this is, amazing. So that's what we as product creators should aim for, to get to that point as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Can
absolutely.
I throw you
That's
a
good.
curveball question?
Always.
I'm curious because both of you have mentioned earlier that like there are some products where this might make more sense than others. And so I'm curious if you could either outline where it makes more sense, like what features have to exist in a product or not exist, like where's that line? If a product owner is trying to decide, how would they know if, I should make mine a SaaS?
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I had a conversation about this recently. I'm trying to remember who it was with, but maybe it was even with you, Bowe, talking about there is a different class of plugin that we don't talk about all that much. The best word that we came to was platform plugins. Essentially it's ones where that plugin defines a large portion of the experience of the whole website. And honestly, when it comes to GiveWP in particular, that's not always true, honestly. Some people think of GiveWP automatically the way they might think of WooCommerce. With WooCommerce, it's like, that's basically true. And I mean, you could definitely make it a smaller portion of your website, but for the most part, if you're using WooCommerce, it's because you're in the realm of sales in one form or another. Nonprofit websites, they do a million things, and donations is one of several of them. And so it's not always that way. But if the product defines a large portion of the experience of the website, then you might want to consider it. I think of even like the events calendar sometimes is thought of that way. If you are heavily event driven, sometimes a calendar is just kind of like, oh, and we also have a calendar. But if you have a lot of events, you're running a lot of events and things like that. LearnDash is an obvious one as well, because we do have a hosted version of LearnDash called LearnDash Cloud. We've turned that into a platform. I do think it's really one of the easiest turnkey ways to be able to spin up an online course in a quick way. And it is a great way to see LearnDash at its best as well. So that's kind of where my head goes. Does that resonate with you, Bowe?
Yeah, like I think I could, my summary is basically, if you have a plugin that has a setup wizard that even installs other plugins in order to be, somewhat of a solution, then you're like bang on. So if you have a utility plugin that does one thing extremely well, talking about like Yoast SEO or, tax calculations for WooCommerce, you don't need a SaaS. But if you have, let's say, a multi-vendor WooCommerce extension, or if you have a LearnDash, or you have a Buddy Boss social network component, or if you have a product that is so niche that people specifically search for your solution and then completely it makes their vision of their website work, then you can say, hey, like the Sun card, like for photographers to store gigabytes of images and share them. It's like, okay, it's just one plugin that does one thing really well, but your audience will make that the center focus of their solution because they're wedding photographers, for example. Then the step to say, hey, we're going to take away all of your worries regarding the complexities of figuring out how to connect your domain and how much storage you need, and we're just going to roll that out for you on our hosted platform, supported by the people that you know and love and trust. That's the perfect pitch. And if that resonates with your product when you're watching this, then I think you should be on this ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to push back a little bit on one thing you said, which is like you were saying, like Yoast, they don't need a SaaS, right?
I was going to push there too.
But yeah, so
You could.
because I think, and I'm not just Yoast, like I think there's two ways to look at it, which is the hosted WordPress SaaS, like a hosted, like Give could do this if they wanted to be like, this is your nonprofit website builder, right?
Yeah.
And it builds everything and it's a hosted solution. But there's this whole other side of SaaS that WordPress product owners can go into. And this is one that we've been talking about a lot in our company, because what we do with Accessibility Checker is in some way similar to what Yoast or any other SEO tool does. And like Yoast has a SaaS, which allows Yoast to be used on Shopify, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it Shopify or Squarespace or something like that? Something not WordPress.
I don't know if it's a SaaS so much, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they have a version, right? And we've talked about ours. It only functions it can only test accessibility problems on WordPress websites. But if we build a SaaS that is running like JavaScript based and it's like hosted on our servers, then we could then theoretically build an accessibility testing tool that could be used on any website. It doesn't require you to install a plugin on WordPress like it currently does. Or another thing we've talked about even with WordPress is on very, very large websites, like 800,000 pages that all have many, 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 many errors. The database size and the load times for some of our reports pages can be very like it doesn't function very well, especially if they install it on Bluehost or random. I didn't mean to call that out, but random cheap
random
plan as opposed to managed.
Watch
right?
out. Warning.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. but right, like inexpensive versus like a more managed hosting solution. And so then we start to talk about maybe it makes sense for them to have a dashboard that integrates with our plugin that we host that they could go to if they have a very complex. So I think there are SaaS options that product owners can go to, even if it's not like a fully hosted version of their
I think the Yoast example is a good one because it's like, of course, you don't need a SaaS for the specific product of Yoast, but their product's purpose is to provide the ability to have really high performant SEO oriented pages. Maybe they do want to do essentially almost like a WordPress.com type competitor, where they're like, if you launch your WordPress site with us, we have Yoast SEO dialed in so well that your pages are always going to perform really highly. Something like that. It's a broader purpose for their specific product.
But that's also where
Jetpack is a SaaS, right?
Yeah.
That you mentioned WordPress.com. Like that's a good example of a
features, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, a product that has some SaaS features with it.
And in this conversation, it's also a little bit because what you just said, Amber, is like perfect example of a traditional SaaS, right? You tie into different platforms like WordPress, Shopify, and you expand your product reach to other platforms, and then you have turnkey SaaS solutions, which is like a WordPress-based environment that you launch, and then it has your WordPress product in it, and it's a completely different thing. And that's why if you have a good brand and you have a good team, then for your product, that's a perfect SaaS avenue. And I think that's also mostly what Aaron Edwards referred to, right? Like build products for SaaS products for WordPress. And then I think the other part is like, if you have a successful WordPress product running inside WordPress, then take away all of the hardships of a default WordPress install in any hosting company and take care of that part. And just to look at your own business and your own opportunities and realize that you have all these avenues to pursue. You don't have to be stuck in the WordPress plugin ecosystem or theme ecosystem. And that's also what we've seen. And it's a big problem, right? Because you see people are stuck in their one branch of their business, and
Yeah.
in my opinion, they need to break out of that, because that is going away. Not tomorrow, but slowly it will change.
Yeah.
Things will change. Also, hosting companies, they are changing.
Yeah, for sure. We kind of migrated into story time, or we're kind of focusing on Bowe's experiences with Dollie, which I think is super informative and helpful. And we heard a little bit from Amber too. But Amber, do you want to expand a little bit on your personal experiences with this question or this issue? It sounds like you're in the middle of thinking about it.
Yeah, we are in the middle of thinking about it. Actually, I'm hoping we can get Vito from Adream on in the future. I emailed him because I know they made this transition, and I was like, hey, will you have a call with me and just tell me all your thoughts? But yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is it goes a lot back to what I was saying earlier about thinking about our end game. And so my business is myself and my husband, and we have a partner, and now we have investors. And so we intentionally built our product with the idea that we would sell it at some point in time. I don't know when that's going to be. We have a lot of things we want to build on it, right? Probably before we get there. But with that, and then knowing that we wanted to be able to build faster on it, we started seeking investors. And I had a lot of conversations. I did an accelerator, and then I had a lot of conversations with VCs. Most of which are not in the WordPress space. And there was a lot of pushback and challenges that we had from prospective investors, or like we would just talk to them initially. And some went further than others, but some would just straight up be like, if you can't tell me your exact number of active users or customers right now, I'm not interested. Or they would say, they had concerns about it being 100% open source, because they're like, what is going to position you to ensure that no one can come and just literally copy everything that you do because they buy even if it's, the free plugins on GitHub and it's open, right? It's on WordPress, but we don't watch. It's not like we limit our sales. So somebody could go buy our pro plugin and then they have all that code, right? Because there's nothing that lives on a server anywhere. It's all just running on the WordPress instance. And so we got a lot of pushback on that. And I think like it really was limiting us in some ways that made it more challenging. Now, we found an investor who understands WordPress.
I was going to lean in on that. I was like, that sounds like they just aren't the right investor.
Yeah, I think so. But I think for us too, like in the long run, I do think that those concerns would come back around when we are ready to sell. And I think it would impact our multiple.
Depending on who you're selling to, for sure. Like if you did get investment from those investors, I don't know that you would enjoy it all that much, because they have very different expectations at the end of the day of how you should be performing and what you should be doing with your open source product. But when you have an investor who gets it, who understands, then it's a bit, anyway, it's almost, we're like moving into different conversations. It's all
but
relevant.
I think those are the things we've been thinking about. Absolutely. I don't have any experience with making the transition because we haven't done it yet. It sounds daunting to me because I've never built a non-WordPress product.
Yeah.
So I feel like we could probably have a whole nother talk that's about how to make that transition. Unless Bowe,
that's a little bit of my experience. That's my story time stuff, which I shared a bit on the Aaron Edwards episode. So I don't have the ability to put like episodes up in the corner, but like the Aaron Edwards episode is worth everybody listening to as well. But we went through a process of like thinking like, there was a couple old SaaSes. There was one called, or hosting environments. There was one called Giving Press back in the day that was built by Organic Themes. They built essentially like a way to spin up a quick nonprofit website in a hosted environment. And we considered partnering with them, or even seeing if maybe we might acquire that. There was another one called FaithMade, which was done similarly, where they highly customized the WordPress environment to create church websites really quickly, and both of those had like really easy paths for us, where we were like, if we wanted to have hosting control the whole environment, so the Give was like set up perfectly for this purpose. Those two made a lot of sense to us. That it was interesting to think about those things. Neither of them came to fruition in any way. But then we thought, like, if we wanted to do a hosted Give WP, what would it look like? And when we started to ask that question, we started to answer it by saying that it would not be a WordPress powered SaaS. It would just simply be a SaaS. And I think that tension is where a lot of folks will come is into this question, is like, why would I build a WordPress powered SaaS environment when I can just build a SaaS environment? And honestly, I'll be a little bit of a cautionary tale. We never launched our full SaaS product, even though we spent a ton of time and investment in it. And it's because it's incredibly daunting to build a SaaS product all by itself, and to launch it with a full marketing strategy that's actually going to work. So it's
What did you approach building it in? I'm just curious. Like,
it was
what
a
languages?
Laravel,
was Laravel.
set up with Google Cloud and all that kind of thing, and it's really cool, and it's still out there. It was at give.io, and it was going to be a fundraising platform, and we were going to take on GoFundMe basically, it was cool. It was great, and we didn't launch it, and it's collecting dust. So if we spun up like a Dollie environment, or WPCS or whatnot, it would be Cadence as the theme. It'd have these landing pages, it'd have these startup pages that were focused on donors and volunteers and your board and all those kinds of things, and you probably would skin it in just a couple different ways. I think in that setup, we would probably like try to cookie cutter it a bit, and be like, here's like your 6 different ways you can have your website look. Because the worry then is like, we're a plugin shop with only so many resources available to us, and now it's a hosting environment. If we give them all the bells and whistles of everything, like the support requests are going to be out the door and just crazy. So there's, I mean, a lot of, I don't know if this is necessarily my story time. I'm just telling you all of the different questions and concerns and failures and successes that we've had along the way of considering these types of options. So,
I mean, it's kind of, I think it's also a lesson that when an established company like GiveWP, and you were already established at that point, you had the resources and you still couldn't crack that nut. And I think why I started Dollie, and my vision was always like, okay, it should be possible, knowing WordPress and the power of WordPress, and people are doing everything in WordPress. Why is that infrastructure part of the puzzle completely impossible to crack from the WordPress perspective? Like, why, if I launch a site on my own platform and it's hosted in a Docker container, why can't that site just be listed as a post type in the WordPress admin, so I can look at it and I can make a loop and I can build a dashboard inside WordPress, just looping over my hosted websites, right? That was for me the aha moment 5 years ago. I was like, I just want to build a dashboard that pulls in all the sites that I've hosted in this infrastructure, and I wanted to just be a post type, and a customer should just be a user in my WordPress install. And that was the foundation of the journey, where after a couple of iterations, you realize, wait, if it's just all in the WordPress environment and someone presses fat fingers, delete site, should it delete the site from my infrastructure? So then we went to, iterate that idea, like, okay, what if we take the best parts of WordPress, which is, the ecosystem. Let's say I want to sell access to my sites, or I want to sell, you can have 5 sites on my Give WP platform, and the checkout will be powered by, WooCommerce, or maybe it will be tied to a LearnDash membership. So you have to be part of a certain course to launch a certain site. That became the whole motivation to build Dollie. And then that evolved into, okay, how can we then start to solve these issues that even the big guys stumble? It's like, do we need 5 cloud engineers? No, you don't. because we have 5 cloud engineers, right? Do I need to understand every single part of my PHP and Nginx configuration? No, because you just have a base image and a UI to click around. But what you do need to understand is like, what platform am I building? Like, what type of business am I building? And what will these sites contain? And that journey for Dollie has been a struggle the first couple of years because people never got to that point. They never really, they were not ready to figure out the opportunities of a WAS or a websites as a service platform or all those things. And that was for me a struggle in the beginning to really convey the potential of like, hey, what if you have your developers that are building GiveWP or an accessibility plugin and you're going to build a SaaS, and the customer experience and the development experience is all going to be WordPress focused. So you have your WordPress install, and then all your sites will be managed by us in collaboration with you. And now in the last year, we're seeing that the conversation that we're having with some of these bigger plugin creators or like membership solutions, e-commerce solutions, they've gotten to that point that Matt gotten and failed. So now we have to reconvince them like, no, things have changed. Like, you don't need to build a Laravel app, or you don't need to have like Google Cloud Platform stuff. You can, but you don't have to. And the story time for me was like to pitch that idea. Now it's the right time. Like the fact that I'm here talking about it, and that we can share stories. And you're saying, Amber, I'm thinking about it. Matt has tried. I mean, you're doing it with LearnDash, for example. And what I keep saying, and I keep saying that, and I'm not, like pitching it to anyone. There's challenges. It's hard. It's not like, it's always going to be a week or a month process, but you shouldn't be scared to explore it. And you also shouldn't be scared or intimidated by what I believe is often a pitch from established companies that say, don't do hosting, it's hard, it's scary, everything will blow up and you will lose everything. It's like, it's just not true.
You think they're just saying that because they don't want another competitor?
Absolutely. I mean, we're a small, we're a relatively small company. So it's easy for us to like just point upwards. But yes, like we have, even with Dollie, we have like triple backups running, right? Most customers have their own backups running. WPCS, we speak to them on a weekly basis. The first thing that you want to ensure is that customer sites are safe. And, it's just one of those things that I think hold a lot of people back, because they are actively giving away 50% of their revenue to a hosting company. And if you have a great relationship with that hosting company, that might work, But if you're a smaller company and you give away 50% or all your recurring revenue, or you have a one-time sale, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot. And that's what I keep telling to people, like, don't be afraid, just explore it. And if Dollie doesn't work, try WPCS. It's a completely different angle they're using, and it's just as valid. So that's my message. Just go for it. Like, try and explore it,
InstaWP seems to be going in this direction as well. I don't know if you've looked into that much, but it's also a very interesting approach.
Yeah, no, I think InstaWP has a lot of overlap with Dollie, where you want to basically automate the launching of WordPress sites and then monetize them. And it's the same idea, right? Like product creators are ready to have that, I would say, almost like a next generation marketplace, where you almost cut out the middleman more. Like InstaWP wants to allow you to launch a site and just push it to a host. So it's not like you're not putting them in a walled garden. You're not taking the customer for you. InstaWP says, let's make that process easy so that the customer, the seller, and us, we all benefit. And I think that's a fantastic vision. And I hope more companies like InstaWP, Dollie, WPCS, that there's more of this ideas of like, let's make that initial impression for your customers as easy as possible, right? And hosting infrastructure, hosts could collaborate, have an open API for hosting companies. I would love that. But, the big guys are not going to do that. But companies like Rocket.net, they love that,
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting, I know we're talking to product owners right now, but what we're talking about with like hosted WordPress, like niche solutions, that just sounds like something that you don't even have to have a product if you are like the
Mhm.
agency that specializes in churches, right? Like, and although I don't know, and this is what I'm curious about, like, how does that work with plugin licensing? If you're the
Mhm.
agency owner and you wanted to say, I want to build the church website SaaS on Dollie, and I'm going to include give on all of it, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Like, is that okay as long as I purchase licenses for, you know, whatever
Yeah,
extensions I
Mhm.
need for all those plugins? Like, does that
yeah.
work, or can I not do that?
No, you can.
Like,
We have two
yeah.
platform builders on top of Dolly. They're actually building church websites, and we have like a centralized update manager. So think of it like Manage WP, but then for all your sites, they're automatically added, and you can push updates. And we want to have like basically a premium update manager where you put in your license key, and then when you update, it just sets the license key, and it's just basically a centralized interface. And some plugins are more, it's a completely different conversation, but it used to be like, best practice for premium plugin providers, like, okay, it needs to be at least functional, and then people can, if they need support or whatever, they have to reach out to us. And now you see, for abuse reasons, right, for good reasons, I'm not like
Mhm.
discrediting that method, but some of them, like the installation process is more involved. So we're trying to kind of automate that, where you can maybe even have like post deploy hooks. So you say after sites launch, do this, and this, run a WP CLI script or whatever. But yeah, the idea is like completely, it's one of the big things that I think are important to solve, right? Like, how can you
Mhm.
manage that skill? And one of the most important management uh, problems is license keys and activations. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, we cover that.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that is a difficult one for sure. I mean, from the business side, when it comes to plugin licensing, like we've had a couple different conversations with folks. We have a couple legacy customers who have over 50 websites or 150 websites, one of them, that they are deploying to all the time. And they literally bought license keys from us in bulk in order for that exact purpose. Like they are the central manager of over 150 websites that were running Give WP add-ons. And they just worked with us and we got a bulk deal for them. That's an exception, not a norm at all. And we don't advertise that kind of thing, but that was their need and their use case. And we were very open to doing a bulk deal with them because we knew that if any of their 150 websites had trouble, we would only still be dealing with that one client.
One
exactly,
And
person.
like
exactly. Yeah.
that makes plenty sense for us, But if it's
Well,
like you're going to be shipping dozens of sites and all those are going to be coming at us, then that's problematic. So.
So Amber, can I throw you a curveball as well?
yeah.
What if I would? How do you? Also, Matt, but how do you feel about the idea of potentially in the future having your plugins locked to a specific site, and instead of it being a yearly per site plugin license, it will be a per month whilst the site is active license. So let's say, let's say uh, agency A wants to resell Give, and they say every time someone launches a site on my Give WP platform, or my platform that has Give WP, instead of having to purchase a license for that site costing me $60 a year or whatever, I'm going to pay you $3 per month per site whilst it's active. If my customer cancels, also it ends.
Like a dev tool or a one-time use kind of thing. So we did get rid of our $15 a month, but we offer for our 5-site and up, people can buy monthly, and we haven't really had the churn with those as much. And I mean, I do think that's a good point. Like, product owners have to start thinking about, if you're going to do SaaS, where does that impact you on like the revenue
Yeah.
standpoint? And I think the expectation on SaaS is that there's a monthly option. And I think at some point we will go back to the single site having a monthly option too.
Hmm.
There may
Yeah.
be some other pricing changes when we do that, right?
Yeah.
But I do think, like, product owners have to think about that as part of the transition to SaaS, because it's not normally expected that it would be a full year when you go pay for any sort of SaaS solution.
Yeah.
I don't think,
Mhm.
especially if you're getting up to higher licensing. Like we sell to agencies, and I wouldn't say that our plugin is inexpensive. It's not as expensive as some of the more traditional SaaS competitors by any means, but so like for them, it did make more sense for them to pay monthly to spread out their bills.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I don't know the nature of it. I mean, maybe talk about $5 a month. Maybe we could talk about it instead of 3, but I'm just kidding.
No, but it's an interesting.
Yeah, well, my
right?
cheapest was 15.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
the one interesting thing in all of that, and I won't go into too much detail, but within Stellar, we're working on a more consolidated type of licensing across all of our brands that would probably enable things like this to be a lot easier. And the one motivation for doing what we're doing is to make the ability to license things easier overall. That's probably a longer story, and I'm probably talking too early. But it is,
Well, I think it
that kind of
depends
problem
on.
is difficult. So
I think it depends on what the product is and if you expect there to be churn. Like, and I don't remember if you have to pay for the Stripe add-on for Give or not, but let's pretend you did. The likelihood of somebody installing that for a month and then going away is pretty low, right?
Yeah.
Like if maybe at a max it would be like 6 months or something like that, and then they'd be like, okay, I'm not getting donations, I'm scrapping this site completely.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Which happens,
right?
surprisingly. It happens.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it does, right? Like, or the nonprofit, they just run out of money and they can't fundraise because there's other things you have to do besides putting up a donation page on your website, right?
Yeah.
But like, I think that's a question as a product owner you have to ask yourself before you go to monthly pricing. And that was part of why we ended up, we experimented and we were like, we're going to keep monthly for higher tiers that we know agencies buy, but the ones that like one-off business owners buy, we decided that we weren't willing to sell our product for $15 or $30, which is really what was happening. They were paying for 2 months and they were going away. And we were just like, we can't. Totally. And the highest support comes in the first 2 months. So exactly. I think you have to think about that as part of that decision.
For sure. Well, we have hit our time and we need to talk about best advice still. And this is one of my favorite parts. I hope folks are sticking around for this. What's your best advice for anyone who's in the WordPress product space thinking about potentially SaaSifying their products? Amber, you're up first.
Yeah, so I'll be short and sweet. Think about your end game. And then the other thing that I would say beyond that, because I've talked about that a whole bunch, is I think you need to be thoughtful about who you bring on your team. Maybe you need to have a partner. And I got to peek at Bowe's notes, so I think he might touch on something, related to this. But what are your skill sets? And either you have a partner or you need to be able to fund and hire the skill sets to fill in what you need if you're going to go SaaS.
Good one.
Yeah,
agree.
Like by far the biggest thing is like, as WordPress product creators, we almost always have a technical background. Like we're tinkerers, we're developers, we love to build stuff, but the sales and marketing is just I spoke to Jonathan Wold, who knows all about the WordPress ecosystem. He was like, all of these WordPress companies, they're massively undervalued. Like they're all undervalued because they don't reach the potential because of not having enough sales and marketing expertise. So, and that's also our problem with Dollie. Like we have a fantastic product. Honestly, we're not getting any real traction organically because it's a big market. You're competing with the big guys. So you have to think about sales and marketing from day one. And companies like Atarim, like with Tvito, like they become rock stars because they understand that, and their product will catch up eventually. They can be, they have all of that experience in pitching products and being really good spokespersons for their solution. And if you're starting now, that needs to be included day one. Think about branding, design, and of course, if you have fantastic product, you're probably going to do well. But to be acquired, to be seen, to get a foothold, it needs to be sales and marketing, and of course being involved with the WordPress community, right? Go to the WordCamps, all those things, they are known. Everyone's always saying that, and it's all true. Partnerships, everyone knows that. But sales and marketing for me personally was the biggest underestimation. I was like, if I build it, they will come, and it's just not
Mhm.
true. It's just not true. It's
Mhm.
50% marketing and sales and 50% product and development. And I, for me, that's sometimes disappointing, because I was like, oh, I wish everyone saw what we've built, in the last half year or year. And that's just not how it works anymore. So
Mhm.
that's my big lesson and tip.
Nice. I would say before you jump into, I do have a little bit different experience than Bo. Bo is really excited about this one. I'm a little cautious about it, and so I would say before jumping into it, do tons of market research to figure out if your product is right for uh, this type of medium. I think that that's the best thing you can do is like if you spend most of your time really researching what your customers actually want from your product, for one, it's just going to help your product in the first place. And for two, if you do find that this type of medium for your product is something that your customers are demanding and needing and wanting, then you're going to have all that data to be able to knock it out of the park. I do in the end that type of work I feel like does all the work for you, so that when you do finally launch, you're just guaranteeing your success so far better than if you're like, well, let's try it out and find out. That's a great way to not have success. So I definitely think there's lots of space to experiment, to try, and even like release to maybe a small beta group or things like that. But going straight to market with an idea without a lot of like prep ahead of time, I think is often just a great way to do a losing experiment. Essentially, that's my take.
It's
Um,
way too rational and well spoken, Matt. I completely
I know,
disagree.
I know.
Just yeet it. Just go full
I'm
on
just
steam
like
ahead.
worried about all those people who are
Yeah.
like madly writing down notes and doing everything Bo says, and I'm just
Yeah,
like,
just send them to me. Don't worry. It's like I'll take full responsibility of all failed product launches in the next year in the WordPress space. No worries.
there's another one. Bo, it's all on you, man. Another failed product launch. Jeez. Nice. Well, man, this was too much fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're working on some more. Amber, what do we got coming up?
Well, next week it'll be Katie and Matt. So we're going to go old school with our host back to our, well, I guess not fully old school, but more recent. And we're going to have a surprise guest.
We're working on it. We got some guests coming up.
It's a
We're
surprise
reaching
for
out to
us too.
folks. Yeah, it's a surprise for everybody. We're working on our whole lineup for the next 6 weeks. And so if you have not heard from us and you would like to be on the show, definitely hit us up because we're looking to fill spots right now. So for now,
Yep.
thank you both so much. And everyone, have a great week. We'll see you next week.